May 1959, Tucson, Arizona. The coffee pot hits the counter. Helen Cordova hears the rancher say it loud enough for every booth to hear. Get out, 3 children waiting at home. $12 in her purse. The boss does not look at her when he tells her to take the apron off. Here is the story. Her name is Helen Cordova. She is 29 years old. Her husband walked out 2 winters back and never came home. She has worked the morning shift at the Cactus Rose Diner on the highway south of Tucson for 4 years. And she is good at it. The truckers tip her. The school teachers know her name. She has never broken a plate. The man who got her fired is a cattle rancher named only by the boss as Mr. Halloway. He owns 6,000 acres east of town. He runs the high tab at the diner 3 days a week. He has not paid that tab in 6 months. This morning, Halloway slaps her on the way past her station. Hard enough to leave a print. He tells her to bring his eggs faster. He calls her a name she does not repeat. Helen sets the coffee pot down. She tells him to keep his hands to himself. The boss hears her. The boss looks at Halloway. The boss looks at the dining room. He does the math in his head. He fires Helen on the spot. A man at the corner booth puts down his newspaper. He has been watching the whole thing. He's wearing a tan wide-brimmed hat. He does not move. He does not speak. He just folds the paper. Then he goes back to his coffee. That man is John Wayne. He has been filming Rio Bravo on the backlot of Old Tucson Studios for 3 weeks. He eats breakfast at the Cactus Rose every morning at 6. The waitress always remembers he takes his eggs over easy. Helen unties the apron behind the counter. Her hands are shaking. She folds the apron the way her mother taught her, corner to corner, square. She puts it on the stool. She does not cry in front of the customers. She walks to the back kitchen. The cook nods at her. He has nothing to say. He has 6 children and his own boss to keep happy. He hands her a brown paper bag with a wrapped sandwich in it. She takes it. She puts it in her purse. Neither of them speaks. She steps out the back door into the dirt lot. The morning sun is already hot. The Cactus Rose Diner sign is faded red metal, swinging on its post. She has parked her old Studebaker in the same spot for 4 years. She sits on the running board. She counts what she has. $12. A bus token. The 17 cents in coins at the bottom of her bag. The sandwich the cook gave her. 3 children at home. Rent due in 11 days. A landlord who already gave her 1 extension last month. The youngest boy needs a new pair of shoes for school. The middle boy is owed a baseball glove she promised him at Christmas. The oldest boy already knows how to keep his mouth shut when there is no money in the coffee can. She does not start the car right away. She sits with her hands on the wheel and stares at the highway running south toward the Mexican border. She does not cry. She has not cried since the winter her husband walked out. She has forgotten how. Where are you watching from? And Bjork, drop your state in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. Inside the diner, John Wayne does not finish his coffee. He sets a quarter on the table. He stands up slow. He walks to the counter. The boss is wiping down the formica with a towel that has not been washed in a week. The boss looks up, sees who it is, tries to smile. Mr. Wayne. Sorry about the disturbance. Wayne does not answer. He looks at the apron folded on the stool. He looks at the corner booth where Halloway is shoveling eggs into his face like nothing happened. He looks at the boss. He puts $1 on the counter for the coffee. Where does she live? The boss blinks. Sir? The waitress. Where does she live? The boss does not want to answer. Wayne does not move. The boss gives him a street name and a number off the South Tucson side. Wayne nods once. He puts on his hat. He walks past Halloway's booth. He does not slow down. He does not look at him. The big rancher does not lift his head. Some part of him knows. Wayne walks out the front door. The bell rings above his head. He stops on the wooden porch. He sees Helen sitting on the running board of her Studebaker across the lot. He does not approach her. He gets into his own truck. He drives back to the studio. By the time the lunch shift starts, Halloway has eaten 4 plates. He has not paid for any of them. He leaves a quarter on the table when he stands up. He winks at the new girl behind the counter. He walks out into the parking lot. His Cadillac will not start. The hood is up. A man in a denim shirt is bent over the engine. Halloway tells him to get away from the car. The man stands up. He hands Halloway his own distributor cap. He says nothing. He walks across the lot to a film set truck waiting at the road. He gets in. The truck drives away. Halloway stands in the dirt, holding the distributor cap. He does not understand what just happened. The rest of his crew is not coming. Someone has called the studio. Someone has told them where Halloway's lease line crosses the back 40 of the studio land. Someone has reminded the studio that Halloway's right-of-way comes up for renewal in the fall. The studio is owned by a man who does not like cattle ranchers who hit waitresses. Halloway will spend 3 hours in the heat trying to hitch a ride home. 3 hours is a long time to think about who you put your hands on. While Halloway is standing in that lot, John Wayne is back on the Rio Bravo set in his trailer. He makes 3 phone calls. The first is to the studio's land office. The second is to the bank in Tucson. The third is to a real estate man named Riggs, who handles roadside property along the highway. Riggs takes notes. Riggs makes one more call. By 2 p.m, the boss of the Cactus Rose has a buyer at the door with cash. The boss is a small man. Cash is a language he understands. He signs the deed without reading it twice. Nobody at the studio knows what John Wayne is doing. The director thinks he is napping between scenes. The makeup girl thinks he is walking off a stomachache. The publicity man thinks he is on a long-distance call to his wife in Encino. None of these things are true. Wayne is sitting in his trailer with a paper envelope on his knee and a fountain pen in his hand. He writes one short line on a card and slides it inside. But that is not the part of the story that matters. The part that matters happens at 6 o'clock that evening. Helen has spent the day calling. The bus station for night shift. The hospital laundry. A motel up the highway that needs a maid. Nothing pays what the diner paid with tips. She has been adding the numbers in her head all afternoon. The numbers do not add to rent. Have you ever had someone hand you something at the moment you had run out? Right when the math stopped working? That moment changes everything, doesn't it? At 6:15 there is a knock on her front door. The 2 older boys are doing schoolwork at the kitchen table. The youngest is asleep on the couch. Helen wipes her hands on her dress. She opens the door. John Wayne is standing on her porch. He is alone. He is holding a brown paper envelope in his left hand. In his right hand, lying flat on his open palm, is a single large brass key with a paper tag tied to it by a string. He nods at her. He does not say his name. He does not have to, Mrs. Cordova. Yes. This is yours. He extends the open palm with the brass key first. She looks down at it. She does not move. He holds it there. She finally reaches forward and picks the key up off his palm. He hands her the envelope second. She takes that too. She does not open it. She is looking at his face. He looks tired. He looks like a man who has been thinking all afternoon about something that bothered him. What is this? The diner, sir? It's yours now. Bought it from the boss this afternoon. Date is in the envelope. Lease is paid through 1965. You manage it. You set the rules. Halloway doesn't come back through that door. Helen does not move. 1 second, 2, 3. She looks at the envelope. She looks at him. She tries to find the words. Mr. Wayne, I cannot... Yes, you can. I do not have the money to... It's paid for. Why? Wayne looks past her into the small house. He sees the 2 boys at the table. The little one on the couch. He looks back at her. Because nobody should put their hands on a woman serving them eggs. And because the boss should have stood up for you before I ever had to know your name, he puts his hat back on. He turns to go. She stops him at the porch step. Mr. Wayne, I do not know how to run a diner. You've been running it for 4 years. The boss just had his name on the door. He walks down the steps. He gets into his truck. He drives away into the desert evening. He does not come back. He does not visit the diner again during the rest of the Rio Bravo shoot. He sends his stunt coordinator in for breakfast on the last day of filming. The stunt coordinator leaves a note on the counter. The note says, "He says you're doing fine." Helen Cordova reopens the Cactus Rose under her own name on the 1st of June 1959. She keeps the cook. She keeps the dishwasher. And she fires the boss. She raises the wages of every waitress on the floor by 20 cents an hour. She puts a hand-painted sign in the window that reads, "Truckers Welcome." Veterans eat half price on Sundays. She refuses service to 2 men in the next year. Halloway is one of them. The other is a sheriff's deputy who tried to put his hand on the same waitress on a slow Tuesday. The town learns very quickly who runs the place now. The cook stays for 15 years. The dishwasher's boy goes through high school, working the back kitchen on weekends. The middle Cordova boy starts buzzing tables on his 12th birthday. By 1965, the Cactus Rose is the highest-grossing roadside diner between Phoenix and the border. Helen never raises a price more than once. She never closes for a holiday. She never asks anyone where they came from before they sat down. He could have signed his check for the coffee and walked back to the set. He could have left it where the boss left it. But instead he reached for a phone, made 3 calls, and bought a roadside diner outright before lunch. The Cactus Rose stays open for 22 years. It feeds truckers, school teachers, road workers, 2 governors passing through, 1 Apache tribal council, and 3 generations of Cordova children. Helen's oldest boy goes through the University of Arizona on diner money. He becomes a public defender in Pima County. The middle boy goes into the Air Force in 1968 and serves 2 tours over Vietnam without a scratch. The youngest takes over the kitchen in 1976 and learns to make every recipe in his mother's handwritten book. 22 years. 16,000 plates served. 240 waitresses come and go. Not one day of rent paid to a landlord. Helen Cordova never sees a bill, never signs a lease, never owes a man anything. The deed sits in a safe behind the cash register. She looks at it once a year on the anniversary, the 1st of June, before the morning shift opens. She unfolds the card that came inside the envelope. The card is yellowing now. The handwriting on it has not faded. The card says 4 words. You earned it. Duke, that is all it says. Helen has never told her sons what is on the card. She has never told the reporter from the Citizen. She has never told a customer who pressed her about how she came to own the place. The card goes back into the safe. The morning shift starts. Coffee gets poured. Eggs get cracked. Another day at the Cactus Rose begins. In 1981, Helen retires. She closes the Cactus Rose with a small ceremony on a Sunday afternoon. She donates the original tin sign to the Tucson History Museum. The sign hangs today in the Working Lives Gallery on the 2nd floor. Underneath the sign, the museum placard reads, Cactus Rose Diner, Tucson, Arizona. 1955-1981, owned and operated by Helen Cordova, who managed the diner under her own name for 22 years after a private gift from a working actor she served. Breakfast 2 in 1959. The actor's name appears nowhere in the deed. A reporter from the Tucson Citizen pieced the story together in 82. His name was Frank Donnelly. He'd grown up eating Sunday breakfast at the Cactus Rose with his father. When he saw the sign go to the museum, he started asking questions. He interviewed the cook, by then retired in Nogales. He interviewed 2 former waitresses, both of whom still wore the gold cross necklace Helen handed out to every new hire. He interviewed Halloway, by then a thin old man living alone in a guest house on the edge of his foreclosed ranch. Halloway would not look the reporter in the eye. He said only one sentence on the record. I made a mistake about who was sitting in the corner booth that morning. The reporter pressed him for more. Halloway would not give it. He died 7 months later. He had no children, no surviving wife, and no friends at the funeral. The ranch was sold at auction. The land was bought by a public school district and a community college. Today there is a parking lot where his front porch used to stand. The reporter ran the story the next Sunday under the headline, The Quietest Deed in Pima County. It ran above the fold. It made the wire services. It got picked up in 3 Western papers. Helen refused every interview request that came after. She let the story stand on its own. Helen Cordova never gave an interview about it. She lived to be 91 years old. When she died in 2021, her sons found a single photograph in the back of her Bible. A man in a tan wide-brimmed hat, sitting at a counter, lifting a coffee cup. No one had ever seen the picture before. On the back, in her handwriting, the morning he came in for the last time. He left a quarter. He nodded at me. He never said a word. If this story reached you, do me a favor. Pass it on. Share it with a veteran in your life. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. There are more Duke stories coming. And unfortunately, they don't make men like John Wayne anymore.